Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the final event of the fiscal year for the African American Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University. We are very excited to have you all join us for what we are anticipating is going to be a wonderful event this evening. I just want to say thank you for all of you who have supported our events throughout the past of this year. And for those of you who are attending your first event with us, welcome. And we hope that all of you guys will join us for the robust programming that we are in the process of planning for next year. So be on the lookout for those announcements from us of what's to come. I am not going to delay our main event any longer. I am going to turn the floor over to Marilyn Maltzby, a very welcome addition to our program committee this year, to introduce Mr. Mansfield Frazier and the Chateau Hough family. So Marilyn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cherise. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining joining us today for this wine tasting event hosted by CWRU, African American Alumni Association, and the winery at Chateau Hough. Who knew there was a winery in the Hough neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio? The vineyard and winery at Chateau Hough are located in the heart of the historic Hough neighborhood of Cleveland, equidistant between downtown Cleveland and the CWRU's home in University Circle. Our evening will include remarks from Mansfield Frazier, the founder and general manager of the winery, and executive director of a nonprofit titled Neighborhood Solutions, Inc. He will discuss the founding and vision for the winery and its relationship to the nonprofit organization. His presentation will include a brief video followed by Q&A. Then Ashley Smith from the winery will conduct the wine tasting. And so if you pre-ordered wine from Chateau Hough, I hope you have your wine and tasting glass right at your side. Let me share a brief bio on Mansfield Frazier. Mr. Frazier, from my view, embodies the elements of entrepreneurship and is a community advocate. Mansfield Frazier is a native Clevelander and proud graduate of Cleveland's Metropolitan School District. He works professionally as a print journalist. As I mentioned earlier, he is also the executive director of Neighborhood Solutions, Inc., a nonprofit organization whose mission is to improve the quality of life of the residents of the community where he resides with his wife, Brenda. He is also the general manager of Chateau Hough, a vineyard and winery owned by the nonprofit that trains and employs formerly incarcerated individuals. As a 21-year resident of the community, he also serves as a consultant to home builders seeking to construct new homes in the various scattered lots in the Hough community, assisting them in navigating the political landscape in the City Hall, while certainly attempting to educate them about the dreams, desires, and aspirations of Ward 7 residents. So, Mr. Frazier, welcome.
Thanks for that wonderful introduction, Marilyn. This journey started for Brenda and I about 17 years ago, when the subject of prisoner reentry became a hot topic in America. We started Neighborhood Solutions to impact on the problems of people returning from incarceration. We started by training social workers, probation officers, prison officials, case managers, in the best practices in helping people that are returning home from incarceration. From that, there was a grant available called Reimagining Cleveland to reimagine Cleveland as a green city on a blue lake. So we thought, rather than just training people on how to institute best practices, we would start a vineyard to show them how to institute best practices. Our vineyard was established in 2010, so our vines are now 11 years old. And we use guys from a nearby halfway house. It's about a quarter of a mile away. They would come and volunteer initially at the vineyard. And if they displayed a good work ethic, we would hire them at the end of their period at the halfway house. Once they got out of their halfway house, we would give them temporary, part-time, transitional employment. The goal was to move them on, to help them, number one, identify what they wanted to do with their lives. And a lot of them just didn't have a clue with what they wanted to do. And we would help them get their driver's license back, reconnect with family members. And we're proud to say that over 50% of the guys that participated, they're working in fields as diverse as truck driving, the restaurant industry, some in construction, one owns a car wash. So after we built the winery, after we built the vineyard, then we had to do something with the grapes. We were processing our grapes at a friend's winery out in Solon. So we then built Chateau Hough Winery. And I'm going to have Crystal play a video that explains what we do and how we do it. Crystal?
All right, just give me a second and we'll get it all queued up for everybody.
We're informed and inspired by Majora Carter, an environmental activist from the Bronx, New York, who said, "You shouldn't have to move to live in a better neighborhood." So all of this was about improving our neighborhood, take what existed and making it better. We started with the vineyard in 2010 from a grant, Reimagining Cleveland. I picked the vineyard because nothing makes money like wine grapes. Bell peppers, they're 50 cents here, they're 50 cents there. A bottle of wine can be $10 here or $100 there. Ours was to create wealth, to create jobs. There's a halfway house about a quarter of a mile away, and we use residents from the halfway house for transitional employment. They volunteer initially, but then we hire them after they get out of the halfway house, and it's provided employment, it's provided stabilization. At the end of the day, everything we do at this urban agricultural zone is for one main purpose: to stabilize lives and communities. And it's done a great job of doing that. After the vineyard, a plant scientist, a biologist, Jean Laurier, came and saw the house that was sitting in the site that we're at now and said this would make a great biocellar. And she was working with the Cleveland Urban Design Collaborative, which is part of Kent State University. The original design that they had wasn't as sophisticated as this. So we hit a bump in the road. They didn't know if it could be built. But at that point, I put the word out that I was looking for a green architect. He tweaked their design, came up with a better design, and this is the first one in the world. So yes, it was a bit of a risk.
We met when there was a house here, happened to be vacated. It wasn't in great shape, but Mansfield said, I have this idea. What happens if we were to go ahead and take it down to the ground, put essentially a greenhouse on top of it? And I said, when do we get started? So we started off with the former foundations from the vacant house. We took some analysis. We looked at how the site was done. And we particularly were interested in the fact that we have south-facing views, which is great for crop growth in this structure. The biocellar is set up in such a way that we're able to grow a wide range of plant species, but currently we're focusing on cold hardy plants. And the reason for that is once you go down below the frost line, which in northeastern Ohio is 42 inches below the grade, you have a constant temperature. The temperature of the soil doesn't change. It's usually around 60, 65 degrees. So with that, we've looked at plants that are tolerant to that degree setting. That would be such things as spinach, kale, collards, a bunch of other items that you can actually go and use throughout the year and grow within the space. And also they are healthy materials. They're actually really healthy for you and they generate some profits for you.
We're going to start looking at doing hops because we have a perfect market. These craft brewers said they would buy the hops for us. We could sell all the hops we can raise. We already bottle wine, but we don't sell it yet. There's a building immediately adjacent west of the vineyard that we're going to start on in a couple of weeks to turn into a winery. Once we got the winery, then we have a license and we can sell wine. And we can sell all the wine we can make at a pretty good dollar value.
What we've done is we took a house that wasn't being used, that was set, forgotten. You didn't have a family out front. You didn't have dogs out in the yard. You didn't have a lot of interaction with it. And what we've taken is that house, made it into the biocellar, and now you're starting to see that hub of activity. You're starting to see that innovation within the community. You're starting to see a lot of people getting excited about the potential of what's coming on the horizon. You're starting to see the next, what might be, prototype being rolled out here in Hough.
There's 15,000 homes in Cleveland to be torn down. We'd like to take 10% of those and turn them into biocellars. We think it concentrates energy. We think urban farming is going to take off.
But we've also seen that this has been a ripple effect where it's not just been here in the localized community, that's becoming more about the region. And also from that, we're starting to see there's starting to become a national effect. After having presented this at the AA National Convention with Mansfield and Gene, we have a lot of people that are actually asking us, what can they do within our community to start to see this being rolled out as a prototype? And the thing with that is that there is vacancy all around us. Right now, the latest Census Bureau puts it at 1 out of 50 houses nationwide are vacant. However, here in Cleveland, 1 out of 10 are vacant. And in neighboring East Cleveland, we're looking at 1 out of 5 that are vacant.
I know so many more of my neighbors than I ever did before I started because I'm out here working, people stop past. It's knitted the community together. We've had over 50 people work on our various projects over the last 5 years, going back to when we started the vineyard. And about 22 or 23 of them are doing okay. In fact, one stopped past yesterday. He just got a new job. He's an over-the-road truck driver. He just started with a new company. He's making 27 bucks an hour now. He started in the halfway house with us and was considering going back to a life of crime because he couldn't get a job. So that's the biggest aspect. How do you reuse land, create something green, and employ people? And we've been able to do that. And the neighbors just absolutely love it. We've raised the value of their homes. Anyone interested in supporting our efforts can reach us through our website. It's neighborhoodsolutionsInc.com, where this video probably will be on at some point.
Thanks, Crystal. What happened, we had a bump in the road. We were supposed to get another building to build the winery. We couldn't secure that building at the time. We just got it 5 years later. So we took all of the plants that you saw down in the biocellar, we took them out and put in a second floor and turned the biocellar into our winery. And that's where I'm sitting now, where we're broadcasting from. So I'll take any questions anybody has. And if there are none, I'll turn you over to my daughter, Ashley.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say that I'm so impressed and so it really makes me proud of my city to see when things like this come in the area. So I lived in Hough, my family is from the Fairfax Hough neighborhood, and it's just awesome. It's exciting. I don't live in Cleveland anymore, but I'm there. Cleveland is my home. So I'm just really proud of what you guys have done.
That's very kind of you, Ms. Thomas. Okay, I'll give you Ashley. Close enough.
I think so. Hello, everyone. So I am Ashley Smith. I am Mansfield Frazier's daughter. I am the marketing director here at Chateau Hough, and I also do tastings, promotions, things of that nature. Some of you, I understand, have purchased some of the wines for the tasting this evening, and some of you may have some wines of your own that you're just going to enjoy while we try some of the wines. So if you do have, actually, before we get into the tasting, I would like to do some trivia. So we'll do some wine trivia first. And how that's going to work is we're going to use the chat to answer the questions. So it's going to be multiple choice, A, B, or C. And let's see how much we all know about wine before we get into the wine tasting. So the first question is, a vertical tasting involves wines, either A, wines from the same year, but from different vineyards or winemakers. B, wines from the same vineyards or winemakers, but from different years. Or C, tasting wines while standing up. So you can use the chat to put what you think the answer is, A, B, or C. Let's see what we have. Okay. Well, I'm glad everybody knew it was not C. And it looks like the majority of you had the right answer. It was B, wines from the same vineyards or winemakers, but from different years. So I'll go ahead and let's see. Show that we're on to the next question. Okay, number 2. When at a restaurant and a small amount of wine is poured to taste, the purpose here is to A, see if you like the wine, B, make sure it is the wine you thought it was, or C, make sure the wine is not spoiled. All right. So the answer is C. And the majority of you guys got that one right as well. Make sure that the wine is not spoiled. So, if it smells off or tastes off, you can, ask the waiter at that point in time or let them know, hey, I think I got that bad. All right. Question 3. Why should you drink dry wines before sweet wines? A, to make the sweet wine seem less sweet. B, to make the sweet wine seem full-bodied. Or C, to prevent the dry wine from seeming overly dry. What you guys think? Yeah, the answer is C. If you were to drink the sweet wine first, it may make the dry wine seem even more dry than what it truly is. So generally speaking, you want to drink the dry wine first and then the sweet. Number 5, black pepper, plum, and blackberry flavors describe which wine? A, a Beaujolais, B, a Shiraz, or C, a Pinot Grigio. So we got the Beaujolais, a Shiraz, or Pinot Grigio. Blackberry, plum, black pepper, blackberry, and plum. I was actually not familiar with the Beaujolais wine until I came up with this trivia, but that is a light red wine from France. So that answer is B, the Shiraz. Is the most common red wine grape in Australia, and it comes in a variety of styles. Typically, there will be black pepper or spicy qualities when it's young. When it ages, the fruit flavors like blackberry and plum become more pronounced. The more you know. Okay, number 6. What does appellation refer to in France? A, wines with an apple flavor. B, place of origin of the wine. Or C, wines from the mountains. And I might have given a part of that away a little bit with my chuckle. See, it looks like everyone got that right. Place of origin of the wine. In France and in many other European countries, the government regulates a designated growing area. The name of the growing area is called the appellation. Alrighty. Which does not necessarily mean a spoiled bottle of wine? A, a moldy smell. B, the bottle stinks. Or C, a vinegar smell. So which of those does not necessarily mean spoiled wine? A was moldy. B, the bottle might smell. Or C, a vinegar smell. Looks like we got a mix of answers that time. So the answer is B. Sometimes the bottle might smell, but that might not necessarily mean that the wine is spoiled. This unfortunate trait can show up as the cork is being removed, but should go away shortly after. Okay, next question. Reducing the grape crop usually does what for the resulting wines? So reducing the grape crop usually does what for the resulting wines? Intensifies the flavor, lowers the alcohol level, or dilutes the fruit qualities. So if you're to reduce the crop, would it intensify the flavor, lower the alcohol, or dilute the fruit qualities? Another mix of answers, but that answer is A. So if there are too many grapes on the vine, the flavor can become diluted. In many cases, it takes severe pruning to make a superior wine. You might see wines with low yield harvest on their label, since it can greatly improve the wine. So it intensifies the flavor when you reduce the crop. Wine connoisseurs wants us to all over. Okay, by law, the word reserve may only be placed on which U.S. made wines? A, rare vintage only to select clients. B, wines aged at least 10 years before being released to the market. Or C, any wine. So the word reserve may only be placed on certain U.S. made wines. Is it because they're rare or because they're aged or any wine? B did seem like the likely answer, and the only one to get that one right was Dr. Adrian, who picked C, any wine. Kind of a trick question. So yeah, currently in the U.S., the term reserve has no legal significance. Some producers use this reserve designation to denote their high quality wines, but they are free to market their other possibly lower quality wines as reserve as well. So now you know, don't pay more for reserve wines because right now it's meaningless. Next question. How long does it take a new grapevine? How long does it take before a new grapevine would bear fruit suited to winemaking? So how long do we have to wait to start our winemaking after our grapevines were put in the vineyard? So A, 6 months to a year. B, about 3 to 5 years, or C, about 20 to 30 years. So A was 6 months, B was 3 to 5, and C was 20 to 30. So that's kind of a yeah, the most logical answer, about 3 to 5 years. A grapevine needs a few years before its grapes are suitable for winemaking. In general, grapevines should be able to bear good winemaking grapes for about 40 years. All right. What can salty foods do to tannic wine? And a tannic wine refers to a dry or bitter or more of an astringency in the wine. So what can salty foods do? We'll just call it a dry wine. A, make the wine seem even more dry, diminish the tannic quality, or make the wine seem sweet. So what can salty do to a tannic wine? Make them seem even more tannic is A. B, diminish the tannic quality, or C, make the wine seem sweet. You guys were torn between A and B, but the answer is A. So salty foods can make it seem even more tannic. Salt is a natural flavor enhancer. So if tannins are a dominant flavor, the salt will further accentuate them. Okay, a couple more. Why are red wines usually aged in oak barrels? So red wines are usually aged in oak barrels. Is it A, because stainless steel tanks would spoil the wine? B, to greatly improve the color? Or C, to improve the wine's ability to age? So red wine is usually aged in oak barrels. Is it because stainless steel would spoil the wine to improve the color? Or C, to improve the wine's ability to age? You all got that one. Everybody got that one right. C, to improve the wine's ability to age. The oak barrels themselves also contain tannins, in addition to those already in the wine, which contribute to the wine's flavor. These tannins have antioxidants to keep the wine from spoiling. So there you go. Wine is actually, like they say, is good for you because it has antioxidants. You add it to your vitamin regimen at night. As the wine ages, the tannins will mellow and lose their astringency, making the wine more enjoyable to drink. And if you guys are keeping score to the ones you got right, maybe somebody can brag about getting the most answers right. Let's see. What do we have? Two more. If a wine is described as hot, it most likely means it is A, has too high of an alcohol content, B, is spicy flavored, or C, is served at warmer than room temperature. So if a wine is described as hot, is it because alcohol content is high? A, B, is it because it's spicy flavored? Or C, is it because it is served at a warmer than room temperature? Crystal, you changed your answer? Let's see, what was your answer? No, Crystal, you should have stuck with your first answer. You were right the first time. It is A, has too high of an alcohol content. So this is actually a negative trait in most table or sparkling wines. Too much alcohol in wine can produce a burning sensation in the mouth and throat while being swallowed. No, excuse me. So we don't want to be taking shots here. We want to be able to enjoy a nice smooth wine. So the answer was A. Oh, thank you. I think I have been direct messaging Teresa this whole time with my little asterisks. This is the last question now. That's okay. Last question. How many basic tastes can the tongue perceive? A, 156, B, 4, or C, 5? So how many basic tastes can the tongue perceive? A, 156, B, 4, C, 5. Somewhat of a mix of answers there. The answer is 4. The tongue can only identify the basic taste of sweet. Basic taste of sweet detected on the tip, sour and salty detected on the sides, and bitter detected on the back. It is the combination of these that make up the myriad of our perceived tastes. I learned something on that one, so the answer is 4. So the answer is 4. Who thinks they have, let's see how many were there. 1, 2, 3. So there are 13 questions. Who had 5 or more? Tiara, you had 5 or more. Oh, okay, you guys were counting. So we will move on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the trivia. How many people have wine that they're going to be trying? So now I'm not sure if your hands are raised because you were counting and you have 5 or more, because you have wine. Oh, okay, I see that some hands did go down. Okay, so Crystal, you have some wine. Miss Sharice, Tierra. Okay. Yeah. Marilyn. We have the dry bread and the rosé. Okay. Tierra, you have some to try. So when tasting wine, we're going to taste the white and the red. That's because red wines tend to leave a thicker taste in your mouth. So it's common practice to start with a light, crisp white wine. And dry before sweet. So part of our trivia was, one of the questions is, why would you do the dry before the sweet? In addition to the dry seeming more dry if you were to start with the dry, also the acidity in a sweet wine can interfere with the flavor of a dry wine, whereas a dry won't interfere with the flavor in a sweet wine. So if you have the wines, the Chateau Hough wines, if you have all 4, then you may have Flame. And I'm gonna kind of go over all of the wines that we have and kind of mix in some pairings with the different options that we have. And then you can always come by, and if you don't have wine now, you can always get wine at a later date and check them out. And feel free to take yourselves off mute and ask questions in between time. So our Flame is our medium bodied, it's our dry red wine. It actually has a hint of tobacco in it, which is different for wine. So it has some tobacco, blackberries, vanilla. And so if you like a dry red wine, then Flame might be for you. Generally speaking, when you do a tasting, you get your wine in your glass and you give it a whiff so that you can, gauge the flavor components in the wine. So that's the Flame. Let's see.
I do have a quick question. Should we have a separate glass for each type of wine as to not muddle the flavor?
If you were doing a tasting here, we would have water for you to rinse your glass out in between. So if you don't want to get up to rinse your glass out in between, you might want to have a different glass. Or you could just rinse the glass out in between.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then water is also good to drink in between the tastings to try to, cleanse your palate and get it ready for the next wine. Yep, absolutely. So the Flame, since it has various levels of richness, would be good with a red meat like a roast beef and some caramelized vegetables if you were looking to pair the Flame with a meal. Yes. Does anyone have the flame to taste?
Yes.
Is that Marilyn?
Yes. Here's my glass of flame.
Oh, okay.
I do have a red wine that I need to open, I guess.
Those of you who are tasting the flame, how do you like it? Okay, Crystal, you've had the flame before. Awesome.
It's smooth. It's a little bit sweeter than I expected of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. It's a little bit sweeter than what I would have expected too, but I think, is that like the tobacco in it?
It may be the vanilla in it.
Oh, okay.
It has some hints of so yeah, I see that someone is trying a Malbec. That would be a good wine, a good dry red wine.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one we'll do is the Sunset, which is my personal favorite. It is our rosé. It's medium bodied. You may taste some strawberries. It has raspberry and peach flavoring and stone fruit. In addition to growing our 2 different types of grapes in the vineyard, we do also grow blackberries and raspberries in the vineyard as well, in addition to the grapes. And if you haven't been by, now is a really good time to come by the winery because the grapes are growing in and it looks very, very, very beautiful this time of year for sure. So with the Sunset, would be a perfect match for vegetarian dishes like butternut squash or sweet potatoes. It's versatile. So you could pair it with roasted chicken or grilled pork or other lean meat dishes as well. And see Tiara pouring her Sunset, maybe. Anyone else have the Sunset to try? So the only thing is with opening all of your wine, you may have to throw a party this weekend if you open 4 regular sized bottles of wine. So Virginia has the Sunset. I particularly enjoy the Sunset. I'm partial to them all, but Sunset, and we have an ice wine, which is black ice, which is only available during the holiday seasons. And I'm not generally a fan of cinnamon flavored things, but the black ice is very good as well. Virginia is delicious. Yes, I enjoy it.
This is Marilyn. I didn't open up the Sunset this time, but I have purchased it in the past and I did enjoy it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we have our semi-sweet white, which is Moxie. So if you, Sassy is the sweetest white wine that we have. Sassy is going to be more Moscato-esque. Sassy is our best-selling wine. The Sassy, because it is on the sweeter side, it would go well with a seafood dish, maybe a shrimp ceviche or some pesto pasta. a nice garlic Parmesan salmon, grilled chicken with lime, or a lean roasted pork, nice summer salad. The Moxie is less sweet though than the Sassy, and it makes it a good match for spicy foods. The semi-sweetness of the wine would balance the spiciness of, Thai or Japanese, Indian, or any other spicy food that you have. So just keep that in mind next time you're eating something spicy. You might want to get a sweeter wine to kind of try to balance the spiciness of your food. So the Moxie, buttery is an interesting adjective for a wine, but if you have it to try, you may notice that it has a buttery finish. There's peach flavoring, it's floral. There's going to be some oak flavoring in there as well. Anybody trying the Moxie this evening or have had it before?
This is Marilyn. I've tried the Moxie before, and I actually like the Moxie a lot as well.
Okay.
Probably sound like a wino. I'm tasting all these wines, but no.
Well, that's what you have to do. You have to try them to see which ones you like the best.
But I've tried the Sassy. The Sassy, I think, is too sweet for me. I'm just not generally a sweet wine drinker, but it's too sweet for me. But I don't drink a lot of Moscatos either, so.
Yeah, sometimes it could be a little too sweet for me as well. Sometimes, get that feeling right back here in the back of your throat when it's too sweet.
Yeah.
Marilyn, have you had the black ice?
Did you say Marilyn?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't. I haven't. I'll have to put that on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, so catch that one in the fall.
In the fall?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm not really into, this is Crystal, I'm not really into cinnamon things, but like I really like the flame. So I'm definitely wanting to try the black ice for sure.
Yeah.
So it comes out in the fall, right? So it'll be out around Thanksgiving time. That's the next time I'll be in Cleveland.
What would you say, Brenda, that the black ice will be out? We'll try around October, Thanksgiving. Oh, around Thanksgiving.
Okay, great.
Sells out fast. You can also place orders online at ChateauHough.com. And we also ship, so you don't have to wait to be in town to order wine either. But yep, ChateauHough.com. And if you look up Chateau Hough on Instagram and Facebook as well, we are on Instagram and Facebook as well. Okay, and then last but not least of the wines that you might have is the roast, which is the, I would say the most unique wines of the wines that we offer. Because it has espresso flavoring. So it's actually made with real espresso beans. The espresso beans are soaked to get that real flavor from the espresso beans and then worked into the wine. And even if you don't like coffee, which I'm not a coffee drinker because it just doesn't agree with me. I don't mind the flavor, but even those who don't necessarily care for coffee flavor really enjoy the roast wine. It is probably one of the sweeter wines that we have, but it's not sweet like Sassy. It's a different kind of sweet. So it would be good. Crystal wants to know, how did you guys come up with the roast? How do you think it came up?
Well, it was just the winemaker at the time who said she wanted to try some different ideas.
Okay.
And we were all for it, and so she did it.
There you go. So we have to thank the winemaker for wanting to be creative. Yes.
This is Marilyn. I know Charisse wanted to select this wine. I'm just curious as to whether or not she's tasted it and whether she likes it.
Looks like she just tipped her glass over.
Aw.
So I'm sorry, I have a piece of ice. I'm not a huge wine drinker because the alcohol usually overpowers it for me. So I would definitely be a fan of the sweeter wines. I also tend to like my beverages colder. So I was doing a taste test with the glass with the ice and the one without. I actually really like this wine. And I prefer it warm.
Okay.
And this is surprising. But I like the essence of coffee and the smell of coffee, and even though I like a little bit of coffee with all of my other fixings. So I give this one a thumbs up.
Awesome. Yeah, it would be good to have a nice charcuterie board with the roast, some nice cheeses, fruit, chocolate, would all be good things to enjoy with the roast. It's not going to keep you up at night, so you don't have to worry about that. And the good thing about the wine is it won't give you a headache. You know, sometimes if you overconsume wine, you may wake up with a headache the next day, but the sulfates and the preservatives are not there. So this will not give you a headache. So those are the 4 wines that some of you might have had. We did kind of touch on the sassy. Our sweet red wine is our Crimson, another top seller. The Crimson is going to have a blueberry, blackberries, raspberries, so a lot of berries. It's medium bodied. So that's our sweet red wine. With the sweet red wine, those are good for earthy vegetables and gamey type dishes. So if you have like a Pinot Noir, also pairs well with like a venison or a mushroom risotto, a braised duck breast, roasted pork, butternut squash ravioli, or even salmon. We have our Buttercup, which is our dry white wine. It's tart, oaky. It's not too dry, so it's not the driest white wine that I've ever tried. It also has that buttery finish, and it is light bodied. So with the dry white wine, as far as pairing goes, it would be good with vegetables, roasted vegetables, fish, a white fish like a halibut, roasted carrots and zucchini would be good if you're drinking a white wine. And then another unique wine, and this is the last one that we haven't went over yet, is our Swoon, because it has a chocolate strawberry flavoring. So you kind of start with the strawberry and finish with the chocolate. It is our dessert wine. And the roast is a dessert wine. We will consider the roast a dessert wine as well. So the Swoon, other than the chocolate and the strawberries, you might taste a hint of jam. It is full-bodied and would be good with dessert. So a nice creme brulee or some homemade cookies or whatever dessert that you like. You always want your wine to be sweeter than your food. So that's also another rule of thumb, that your wine should be sweeter than the food that you're eating at the time. So those are all of our offerings. Any questions for me?
So Ashley, we have a question in the chat.
Oh, I do see that. I was going to mention that as well. Yes, you could definitely add a bit of cream to the roast. And that would definitely make for a nice concoction for sure. Like a nice Baileys or, yes, I think cream with the roast. I've been meaning to try that myself, but I do know of, some of our regulars who have tried some cream in the roast. Crystal, you really enjoyed the flame. Awesome. like I said, I'm partial to them all. Any other questions?
Ashley, I have a question. Actually, I should have asked Mansfield when he was there, and I don't know if he's still around. I was just curious as to how many urban wineries there are around the country. Do you guys have a sense of that?
Not really. Like right down in the inner city.
Right, like you guys.
In the heart of the hood. I would have to say they're probably few and far between, but that's something that we should definitely look into because it is interesting. Because we are Cleveland's best kept secret for sure.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. People are generally very surprised to hear that we're here. I'll tell you, I was surprised to hear that they were here. Although Mansfield is my dad, I just met him at the end of 2019. We were connected on 23andMe. We were actually on Channel 8 in December of 2019. They did like a Christmas, I don't know if they called it a miracle, but you know. So my in-laws actually live right up the street from here. So this is 66 and Hough, and my husband was raised on 89th and Hough, so he remembers when the winery was built. But being from, I'm from, more like Shaker Heights area, I had no idea. So I literally did not know until I met my dad.
Wow.
Are you able to come in and have wine? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can schedule a tasting beforehand. Yep. So we do tastings quite often here in the tasting room. It's not a huge space, and in the summertime, we will have outdoor seating as well. Oh, congratulations, Alea. Wow. So I don't know who's reading the chat, but Alea says that she just met her dad from Ancestry DNA in October. Your family lives on 81st and Superior. It's amazing to me how many people I have met after meeting my dad, people who I've known my whole life that I did not realize that they did not know their fathers as well. I highly recommend Ancestry or 23andMe because you never know what you might find. Long lost family members. We do have small functions in the tasting space. Yep, so last weekend we had it was sort of like a street market where we had vendors outside. Not sure when we will do that again, but we have baby showers. The space can be rented out for whatever. Yep, and we also utilize the outside space. Yep, so baby showers, bachelorette, birthday parties. Absolutely. Any other questions?
So I have a question for you, Ashley. How many guests can you accommodate in the tasting space?
No, you say 20?
We've had 20 and it's a little tight.
Yeah, 20 is a little tight.
15 maybe, but 10 is comfortable.
Yeah, 10 is comfortable. 15, we could work in 15. 20 would be a little tight. I had right before COVID, so that would have been last February, I had a sip and taste. There were quite a few people in here then. I know that was a sip and shop, so we had a couple of boutiques and people were able, so it was a little cramped, but people seemed to have a good time.
Okay. Well, I think we've come to the end of our questions. I just want to thank you, Ashley, and everyone at Chateau Hough. You may have started off as the best kept secret, but I think that's going to be not the case moving forward. I'm sure you have at least 14, 15 ambassadors from this evening who now can go out there and share about the wonderful wines that you guys have. And you've made me a believer with the roast. So
awesome. Awesome.
I just want to thank everybody for coming and participating this evening. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed yourself. This was definitely an experience. If you enjoyed this event, please look forward to additional programming and even ways that we might partner with Chateau Hough now that we're lifting our COVID restrictions and are able to go back into the community and host in-person events. So I see a number of people have learned a lot from this event, including myself. And so it was awesome that you spent your time with us this evening. We appreciate you teaching us. We appreciate everyone actively participating. Enjoy the rest of your wine and throw a party this weekend, socially distanced, of course, just to finish out those bottles. Thank you again. I think I probably did not mention this in the beginning. I'm Sharice Jones. I happen to be the program committee chair and the treasurer for the African Alumni Association of Case Western Reserve University. And on behalf of Quad A, I want to say thank you for participating and enjoy well, this is Friday Eve, so enjoy your pending weekend.